Hey everybody, it's Adam from The Army Painter back again with another video tutorial. Today we're going to take you a little bit behind the scenes and showcase how we help to develop some characters for a new product range we're calling Gamemaster. The third member of our adventuring crew is Dayrik. Fast and agile, Dayrik can at times seem like a blur in the wind. Extremely agile and acrobatic, he rarely fires an arrow from his longbow with both feet on the ground. Today we're going to jump into the level up tutorial where we expand on the basic techniques that we found in our adventure ready video. We're going to do this by applying some highlights and reestablishing some of the base tones to make the model a little bit more vibrant on the tabletop. So let's take a look at some of the colors that we're going to be using for today's video. Now that you've scurried back from finding all of the paints that you need, go ahead and grab yourself some clean rinsing water. I like to use my wet palette. You should give it a try too if you haven't yet. And your favorite brush, and let's get started. As always, I like to begin by adding our first highlights to the skin tone. So I'm just taking a little bit of our rosy skin, which was our base coat for Dayrik's skin tone, and I'm just picking out the raised areas, allowing the wash to settle into the recesses where we added it in our adventure ready tutorial. And I'm just highlighting up, just a simple highlight. We're just reestablishing the base tones on areas like here on the arm. I'm gonna be a little bit more liberal with this highlight, and I'm just gonna go ahead and reestablish that base tone. If there's any creases near, the elbow here, I'm just gonna leave that wash to sit in the recesses. So take your time, go about. You probably only need one smooth coat, but if you feel it necessary, go ahead and apply a second smooth coat for that first highlight. Next, we're going to highlight the hair using the base tone. We use Goblin Skin. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to focus on the ridges of the hair. You can see I'm leaving that wash in the recesses, just very simply picking out the highlights of the hair. Here's a great example here on the ponytail of Dayrik. I'm just going to trace and pull along the ridge that the model leaves us and the wash has helped to highlight and focus out. Next, I'm going back to Goblin Green. This is the color that we prime the model in, and we use that as the base coat for all of the greens. And I'm just going to reestablish the green tones on the shirt of our Elf Ranger, like so. And very carefully, I'm going to pick out all of the checkers on this quilt pattern on his cape. So I just want to very carefully focus. I have very thin down paint just so I have lots of control. This might take a second coat, and that's okay. Just take your time. It'll pay off later. So thin down your paints with some clean water. All of our war paints and the Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments range of Dungeons & Dragons paints are 100% water-based, so they thin down very well with clean water. So just very carefully, I don't want to get this paint in the recesses of the quilt pattern. I just want to focus on the raised areas and really bring the green back to life. Now that we've highlighted all of the greens, I'm going to go back to Cobalt Skin and I'm going to begin highlighting all of this reddish brown on the model. That's the belt here and, of course, the pants. Which, after you apply the wash, the Cobalt Skin and the Minotaur hide they tend to blend together a little bit, and that's kind of what we're going for. There's a couple different brownish red tones on this model in John Gallagher's artwork. Now, as we begin to highlight these colors in this step of the tutorial and the more advanced masterclass tutorial, you'll begin to see a bit more of the difference in the hues. You'll see this become a little bit closer to red, while we will push the Minotaur hide, like the brown on the boots and the trim on the quilted cloak on our Ranger, shift more to the brown colors. Of course, the most red area on this model of this Cobalt Skin color tone is the cape. And what we want to do here, I'm going to go back and grab a slightly larger brush. I'm going to go to a regiment brush because there are big, large folds on this cape. And I'm going to thin down our paint so it's nice and smooth. And I'm just going to apply this on the outer folds of the cape, leaving that wash to sit in the recesses there. And this is going to help to push the illusion and push the three-dimensionality of the model, really boost the contrast. And right now what we're doing is upping the saturation. We've boosted the contrast with the wash, and this first highlight really boosts that saturation and the vibrance on the model and brings it back to life. So take your time here. You only want to apply one coat at first, give it some time to dry, and then go ahead and apply a second coat because we really want this red cape to stand out. It's been a really fun process developing these characters to help tell the Gamemaster story. It's seen a lot of hands and a lot of eyes at the Army Painter headquarters. We even hired famous illustrator and graphic designer John Gallagher to do the artwork for our Elf Ranger friend. And I couldn't be painting this model without his artwork, so let's take a listen to what John had to say about Dayrik.
You have to make it very clear through pose, color choices, and texture and all of that, what they are immediately. And I think now, in the face of having, cinematic milestones like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and so on, to a lesser extent, we've had the opportunity to find these demi-human races and their aesthetics, perhaps a little more also through the tabletop scenario as well. You have countless explorations of these characters. So we've kind of landed on a consensus, which is always exciting, that you get a sense of immediately what a dwarf is, what a ranger is, humans, and on you go. So in this case, I think, what I really like about Dayrik is that mask is everything.
I've reestablished all of the kobold skin, that dark red tone on the cape, the belt, and the other areas like the pants on the model. I'm going back to Minotaur hide now, and I'm just going to highlight all of the brown on the model. It's going to be all of the leather, the edge of this quilted overcoat that, I'm not even sure what this is. It's like a skirt, it's part of the overcoat, and of course these boots here. So you can see where the wash is settled into the folds on the boots. I'm going to leave them to sit in those folds, and I'm just going to reestablish the base tone as our first highlight everywhere else. All right, so we highlighted all of the Minotaur hide bits on the model, the mask, the arrow, and all of the leather aspects like the strap and the trim around the quilted skirt and the boots. I'm going back this time to skeleton bone, and I'm just going to apply this to the pavers and, of course, all of the areas that we originally base coated them with in the Adventure Ready tutorial. So right now I'm just painting in the straps of the bow very carefully, leaving that wash in the recesses. And you'll also want to get the straps around the sword on the back of our Wood Elf Ranger. So very carefully, just very thin application of skeleton bone, just like that. And I'm going to apply a little bit to the handles of his daggers as well. Now with orc skin, I'm just going to apply a little bit of a highlight to these feathers here on the arrow. They don't have a whole lot of texture to them on the actual print of the model, but I'm just going to add some with the brush strokes to really give it a feathered look. Go ahead and begin the tedious step of reestablishing the base tones on the base. Now, just go ahead here, and really this is kind of brainless work. We're just painting inside the lines that the wash provided for us in the Adventure Ready tutorial. That was the last step of that tutorial. Now we're just going to go ahead and apply this orc skin, this very light gray, onto all of the pavers around the base. All right, now we're just going to move on to highlighting all of the metallics, and I've got mithril silver again. This was what we used as the base tone, and I'm just going to find all of the metallic areas on the model And I'm going to leave the shade tone, the shadow tone wash that we applied in the recesses. Here on the bow, I'm actually going to leave that wash just to be nice and kind of gritty back there, just to have some extra definition on the model. So just very simply, I've thinned down my metallic paints here with just a little bit of water, and I'm going to go about and, make these colors pop again, reestablish them while allowing that wash to just sit in the recesses very carefully here. Pick out these nice small details on the model, like these buckles here on the strap that he's wearing on his chest, across his chest. Of course, you don't want to forget the arrow. Now, on the arrow, I'm going to do something a little bit different. You see that the arrow's got a nice little angle or a crease on it. I'm just going to paint the top half of the arrow to really make that top half shiny, leaving that darker area on the bottom half like so. Very carefully, just go ahead around the model and reestablish those silver tones. Now that we've got all the silver bits on the model back and shiny again, we're going to go about and highlight up the gold areas on the model. And this time we're using Dwarven Bronze. This was our base coat, if you remember from our first tutorial. And we're just going to, again, we're just going to rebuild up that base tone, leaving the wash to sit in the recesses to create the shadow effect, some depth and detail to the model. So areas like here on the bracelet that he's wearing, just going to very carefully apply a little bit of that Dwarven Bronze. The tips to his daggers here. You turn the model around, and then of course the hilt to his sword. Just, you really want to brighten it up. It is an elf after all, and they do like their things nice and shiny. So go ahead and reestablish those base tones across the model. You don't want to forget these areas here on the armor that he's wearing on his chest. So just very carefully, be careful not to get any of this paint on the areas that we've previously painted. Go around and highlight the rest of the gold on the model. I hope you enjoyed painting along with me in this level up tutorial. Remember that you can find all of the paints and products that we use in today's video at your friendly local game store from your favorite online providers such as Amazon or at www.thearmypainter.com. Remember that the magic in miniature painting is that it can be as simple or as challenging as you'd like it to be, but with the right techniques, you're sure to achieve some great results.